around.
What happened last time? I don't remember.
I was waiting, and it was the first time, and I thought that you were going to call me, and so I sat there for half an hour waiting, and then,
Oh,
but I was meant to call you. Like,
oh, I got you.
yeah,
Oh, well, you thought we were going to use. Okay, I got you. Yeah, that
yeah,
happens. Okay, we're live on all 5 platforms. Let's see. Let's make sure people are coming in. Bendigo.
yeah.
Yeah, I've heard Morgan say that place. Got a few people coming in. I'm going to play the intro real quick. Okay. And it's about 1 minute and 20 seconds. We'll be right back. Sorry, I had my microphone off. How's it going, everybody? We've got the beautiful Valli, Maine, who says she's 31, but she's actually like 17. In the house with us for the second time, and we had technical difficulties just like we did the first time, which always means on this show that we're going to have a great show. So, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for coming in and honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us. We got a few people, 32 people in the house and still coming. It's good to see you, though. It's good to see your smile. You look like you're doing good.
Yeah, I'm going good.
Yeah.
Good.
So what's happening on your end of the front line of the apocalypse?
Well, I'm in Victoria in Australia, so I've heard that we've had like the harshest lockdowns in the world apparently, but
Yeah.
I'm not in Melbourne though, so thankfully that would have been a lot worse. Bendigo's in central Victoria, so besides like the town, we're just surrounded by bush and nice things. So
Wow, that's cool.
yeah.
That's cool. How about the energies? How have they treated you? These last few weeks have been really intense, as the whole
Yeah,
year has. Has it been that way
yeah.
for you? Has it been that way for you?
Yeah, I was after like our last interview didn't work out or how it got postponed to now. I thought afterwards, I was like, I'm glad that it got shifted to now because it's been an intense few weeks.
Hasn't it,
And
though?
yeah, and so I feel like a lot of the things that I was working through and clearing out were good things to get rid of beforehand because I think that I would show up in a different way today than what I would have back then. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, and isn't it funny how the universal energy is supporting us? Like, if you have a scheduled event and you don't need to be on there, it makes sure that it doesn't happen. So the stuff you've been clearing, has it been personal or has it been collective or both?
A bit of both. So, well, like personal, but then at the same time, the things that I've been clearing are also relevant to the collective. So I think like how a lot of the world is scared of the virus, I'm like scared of the control and
Yeah,
like the manipulation. And so a lot of the stuff that I've been working on this year has been around like clearing the fear of that and just trusting that creator's got this and that it's going to be okay. So a lot of my stuff has been around trust and then clearing out whatever I can out of me to then help support me in trusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your kids get pulled out of school and all that stuff? Or
He's
no?
only 4. He turns
Oh,
5
see, I knew you were
next.
19. I knew it couldn't be that old.
Yeah, so he doesn't go to kinder, but I was planning on homeschooling him anyway, so I'll
Yeah.
just see what
Yeah.
happens.
And what's it
Yeah.
what's it like having a 4-year-old in 2020 amongst all this stuff going on? Are you picking up anything from your 4-year-old?
Um, oh, he's really great, Spency. I think, well, because I'm a single mum, so I just live by myself, and so I think we've like probably been a little bit extra isolated, but because we're both like pretty hermity, we've been quite fine
Yeah.
with that. But I've just like tried to not talk about any of the fear-based things around him. So he's he had a sleepover at my mum's a little while ago and came back saying that he was scared of the virus. And I was like, Spencer, you don't need to be scared of the virus. He's like, so you're not scared of the virus? I was like, no, I'm not scared of the virus. And he's like, well, I'm not scared of the virus either. and
Yeah.
then, and then that was that. So he's just been like a little light beam really this year. He keeps me sane.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've had couples and single parents come on, and either a couple of the kids have come on, just for a little bit, but they've talked about how these young kids are communicating telepathically, uh,
Mm,
you know, s- uh, you know, talking about different things that are kind of off planet, and just obvious, obviousness in terms of that they're carrying a higher frequency. You know,
yeah. Yes, Spency's definitely like that. He, from like the age of 1.5, he's been telling me about how the people come and take him through the wall and up in and take him for a drive, like go. And so yeah,
is that right?
yeah, and you can always feel when they're going to visit. So there's one time he should have been in bed, but I had him in the little bath in the sink. He was about 2.5, and I could feel someone was in the house. I was like, oh, they're not coming to see me. So I just kept vacuuming. And when I finished, I was like, how you going, babe? And he was like, Mum, I want the blue animal lady to come back. And I was like, the blue animal
Wow,
lady? And he pointed to the window. He's like, yeah, she was just out there.
wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, that's crazy cool.
Yeah.
So they're having, well, what it sounds like is that they're having a recall of what we're probably experiencing, but we can't remember. But like,
Yeah.
so he says that they take him for a ride. They take him through the wall and take him for a ride.
Yeah, he says I was like, what do they do? Like when they get you spent, he's like, wow, they just take me through the wall. So he just like goes through the wall and then they take him for a drive. Like
Wow.
obviously a fly, like into
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Obviously, obviously he's not going down the road on an automobile. Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. Does that challenge you at all? I mean, are you in total
No.
acceptance? Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't worry me at all. I had not many people know about this, so I'll just yeah, but before so well people know about some parts of it, but not the encounter part. So in up until 2012, so I was a drug addict and an alcoholic from like the age of 10. I got really severely into that. And then around the age of 23, I had a mental breakdown, which was like a few years later acknowledged as a spiritual awakening. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
at that time, I had an encounter in a paddock. I was in a paddock, and all these beings came down, and it was almost like a life intervention. I remember what they all looked like. There was two different types from different races, and but like lots of them. And I ended up getting like put in a trance, and we communicated telepathically for I don't know how long, but I got in trouble, and and they were like, "This isn't what you came here to do," and just like it showed me all of the things that I'd been doing wrong, and then kind of corrected me, and so it was just instructed that I needed to like sort my life out. And so after that, I became sober, but they also wanted me to like make sure that I was going to be okay to look after their kids.
Wow. Man, talk
Yeah.
about an intervention. I guess the psych
So,
wards in the medical industry need to check into the galactic family to come down and get people straight.
oh, well, I ended up getting locked in the psych ward for like 6 weeks, and I was like one day off getting electric shock therapy. I didn't know that until afterwards. My stepdad told me, but because at the time I was just telling them like what I understood to be true, and then obviously it sounds crazy like if you're in a psych ward. And so in the end, I just had to like answer their questions how I knew they wanted them to be answered, and I was like, no, auras don't exist, and there's nothing outside our reality. And then after like a week, they just let me go. So I just had to like be not just pretend to be normal, I guess.
Yeah, play the
Yeah.
game. But I
Yeah.
wonder how many kids around the world are like your boy. You know, I
Oh,
mean,
a lot.
I
Yeah.
bet. Absolutely. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with your country mate, Mary Rodwell, but
Yeah.
have you?
Yeah, I love Mary. I've had
Oh, she's
yeah.
incredible.
I worked with Mary after because I got onto Marie Bachelor through a friend, and then she recommended me to Mary, and they both helped me a lot, just in coming to terms with myself and the experiences that I'd had, and it just helped me to feel like I wasn't crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm writing their names down because I need to reach out to both of them. It's been on my mind.
yeah,
Yeah, I love both of them. They're just both so cool and so down to earth too.
yeah.
But Mary, the last two times she's been on, we talked somewhat extensively about her work with children and how it's been accelerating, and how these
Yeah.
kids are talking about things like your son. You know, one of them, I believe it was a 9-year-old, was telling her, "Hey, I'm from this blue planet, and this is my job. I'm like a physicist."
I know,
I mean,
it's so cool.
can you imagine that though? I mean, you do. I mean, you're living it. You're living it.
Yeah.
Is it fading away? Is it becoming more frequent with him, or is it just staying the same?
He seems to go through more intense phases. So like if he talks about them coming to get him, it seems to be for like a couple of months, and then he won't talk about it for a bit, and then he'll start talking about it again. So I don't know if it actually happens in phases, or if he just feels like
Yeah.
talking about it at
Wow.
certain points. So.
Does he ever talk? I'll get off the subject, but it's so intriguing. Does he ever talk about what happens when he goes for a ride?
No, he just says that they go for a drive,
Wow.
and then
Wow.
doesn't say what happens. He's just like, yeah, they just take me for a drive, and I was like, oh, if he remembers more, if he wants to talk about more, he'll just tell me.
It's
But
going to
that's
be
pretty much it.
Yeah,
With
it's
that.
going to be really interesting to see what actually has happened and how all this works and goes down when we get through this trip. Or maybe we're not going to have to get through it. Maybe
Yeah,
if it's coming through them. You've got to believe it's going to be, it's going to be available and accessible to all of us. You know,
yeah, and that's one of the things that I was saying, or about. It's one of the things that you shouldn't say to a psychiatrist in the psych ward, but about how all of this time we'd been like lied to and suppressed and like drugged, and all of these messages that were hidden like over thousands of years or however long it's been. But you can't suppress what we are, because you'll never forget. Like, it's something that can be just activated in all of us and remembered at any time. So it's
yeah.
like, yeah,
Wow.
we're never going to disappear.
I know you're connected. Have you ever tried to connect with those that he's referring to?
I think they're probably the ones that came to visit me in the paddock.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
When, yeah, I'm assuming that the blue cat lady he was talking about was one of the blue beings that was there. So
Yeah.
there was,
Yeah.
yeah, when I was describing them to Mary, because at the time I hadn't been able to openly talk about it really to someone, I was like, Mary, you're going to think I'm crazy. And she was like, just I won't. But then when I was describing what they looked like, she was like, "Oh yeah, that's the so and so, and that's that type of being, and that's this type of being." So it was like comforting to know that I wasn't hallucinating.
Oh, that was Mary. Mary was telling you that. Mary Radwell.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and this thing with, and I know there's a lot of different species in the universal family, but man, the blue, be it blue avians or Syrian or these what seems to be maybe Lyran.
yeah,
Um, there seems to be a lot associated with the color blue,
yeah.
and I don't know why that is, but it's always seems to be coming up when people are talking about this stuff. Fascinating. So you worked with Mary. That's interesting on a personal level. Yeah,
Mm, yeah.
yeah,
It helped me a lot, a
yeah.
lot.
To understand that you weren't crazy.
Yeah, because it was Mary who and Marie Batchelor after having sessions with them and like just being completely honest because for years afterwards like everyone just told me that I was crazy and I was
Mhm.
on like really heavy medications and I just couldn't let it go. I was like, I don't feel like I'm crazy. Like I know that
Yeah,
what I experienced was real. So
yeah.
it yeah, Mary just said it in her accent. I love her accent. She was like, well, good news is you're not crazy. You were just
That's right.
having a profound spiritual awakening.
We had somebody on in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember. It was a woman, and she was talking about. She went into the psych ward
Yeah.
for I want to say at least a few weeks or whatever. But and because I had made a comment like crazy isn't crazy anymore. I think
Yeah.
I think what I said was a lot of us have been incarcerated or in a psych ward or told we were crazy. And she said, I was in the psych ward and I met some really really stable people in there because they were totally like you were talking about with Mary. I mean, they were totally like connected and understood what their experiences were, and it didn't phase them that they were in a psych ward. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, this is the reality of it. If everything is kind of a reflection, a copy. If you look at the micro of the psych ward or the micro of the let's say the mental health industry, it's still the same pattern of suppressing and keeping down the true reality of what we are.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
totally.
So yeah, that's amazing to start a show like that talking about a 4-year-old kid who's taking rides with blue Lyrans every now and then. That's fascinating. So, how's your connection to the Universal been over the last couple of months with all this stuff going on? I know you went through some integration and releasing and all that, but have you what's been happening with the level of your connection and your clarity? Are you getting any information in collectively or personally?
Yeah, I've just a lot of it has just been around grounding and not getting caught up in the drama of anything, like whether it's fighting against the corruption or the opposite of that. Of
Yeah,
mine, a lot has been around just ground,
yeah, yeah.
just ground and focus.
Just hold your space. Yeah,
Yeah,
fortify your
yeah,
field. Yeah, I think that's really it's pretty cut and dry. Really, I mean, because for every moment for every degree of what focus on these things that keep us ungrounded, well, we're not being grounded. We're not enhancing our natural evolution, which seems to be what this ascension, uh, is demonstrating. Is that we all are expanding, and
mm,
the only thing that gets in the way is us.
yeah,
When you think about it, because the distractions are just that. They're just and no different than you going into the psych ward and being told that the only reality is the one that you're in. I
yeah,
mean, it's just trying to keep us from ourselves. Man, these
yeah,
kids though, I got to see if I can get Mary on here in the next few weeks. These kids are absolutely bringing something to the table that, I mean, what's going to happen? More and more and more of them are going to be born.
yeah.
And you're not going to be in the minority. And then the
I just
big thing
realized.
is, there's been
Sorry,
some people talking about,
just
uh,
realized my hand was shaking and I was shaking the
oh,
screen. I got to put the
yeah,
phone down.
Are you good? But what I was going to say is there's been some people talking about how the third energy or the golden child frequency is coming onto the planet. And there's been some talking about it, like Morgan, that it was conceived in March 11th, and that it's going to be birthed around the winter solstice. And then I look at the COVID thing and I'm like, okay, everybody went into quarantine in March. So there's going to be a bunch of babies born in December.
Yeah.
But I mean, from an energetic standpoint and a frequency standpoint, they're not tainted. I mean, your 4-year-old is got a clear channel, and can you imagine having a room full of them, or a city full of them? I mean, it's not about conversing and verbalizing and conveying the information through normal procedures. It's just the fact that they're like these tuning forks that I think they're going to be leading the way before too long.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Spencer's been telling me off for the last couple of years about asking me where his sister is. He's like, Mum, why haven't you had the other baby yet? He's like, getting real mad at me. I'm like, well, Spencer, Mummy doesn't, like, where is the baby going to come from?
Right.
So I know I have a partner coming in. I've known about him coming in. He came and found me in a dream when I was 18. So I know that he's coming, but the little baby will just have to wait until he arrives.
It's fascinating that he knows that, though, and that information. And that's another example. So you had a visitation and dream state from your partner.
Yeah, it was like 13 years ago. I was 18 at the time, and I had a dream that I lived in a valley, and I was a teacher in a little one-room cottage, like a one-room bluestone school, and he was out collecting fire, and a bushfire came, and so I was in the school with all of the kids, and once I knew that they were safe, I ran to go and find him, and he died, and but he came and stood in front of me before he left and held my hands and said, "Don't worry, I'll come back and find you." And then he started swirling and turned into a rabbit and hopped around me 3 times and then ran away. And when I woke up, I cried for like 3 days. I just stayed in bed and cried. And I just know that he's coming. That's where the name Valli, Maine comes from. So, because my real name is Judy, but I call him the man from the valley. And I felt like it was around Maine where this life was.
Wow.
So that's Valli, Maine. And I've like written a whole album for it called The Garden of Valli, where I've just like put all the dreams and different things in that.
Far out. Does it feel like it's imminent? Does it feel like it's getting closer?
I feel like maybe within the next 6 months.
Wow.
But I've been like get a bit annoyed because it's like you don't just come and tell someone that you're coming to find them and then show up like 13 years later.
Yeah, at least give me a postcard every now and then or something. So get closer, get closer. Wow, this is the new fairy tale.
Yeah,
it's a new fairy tale. I mean, these stories, and that's what's so great about being able to do this show. Is you hear about these type of incredible experiences, and you got a whole plethora of them, with this kid. But that when you hear these things, that it's not just that person. Or if it happens to me, it's not just me and Morgan. That this energy is now available, and it's accessible, and people are embracing it. They're going with it. Because, like, if you look at your case, for instance, you could have shut down. You could have said, "Oh, well, there is no other reality," and you could have given in to the programming and the conditioning. But the fact that these souls are continuing this path that doesn't make any sense, what was fantasy is becoming real, and what we thought was real is becoming fantasy.
Yeah, that's like one of the things that I did, like back in 2012. Or I guess like I was always like aware of stuff, like when I was a kid and stuff. Like I've never felt normal. I always felt like that I was like, what is this place?
Right.
And never really fit in. I guess that's one of the reasons why, like, getting so heavily into drugs and alcohol from a young age. Um,
Hmm.
but like back when it got to like a peak for me in 2012, because I was just receiving so much information and like I just couldn't stay grounded. Like my head was just full, and I ended up becoming homeless and just wandering around for what seemed like months. But it just felt like this a game to me, and everything seemed so funny. Like I was just like analyzing all of the different systems in the world and being like, wow, everything really is the opposite. Like what we've been told is true. If you just flip it to the complete opposite and just navigate life that way, it seems to work out so much. Yeah, helps to make sense of things a bit quicker. Like not everything is the opposite, but a lot of
Well,
things.
I would say, I would say, in my experience, everything is opposite. That you're saying that too, because I talk to a lot of people, or even with Morgan. Like Morgan is one of those people that came in, uh, and she knew she wasn't from here. And
Yeah,
I never really had those feelings. But when I went homeless, when I woke up 9 years ago, I can remember walking at night because it was in the summer when it started, and I remember walking in, through I just walk and walk and walk, and I
yeah,
remember
same.
like looking up at the stars, and it was almost like it was a globe, like those Christmas things that you shake.
Yeah,
That was the first time I felt like I was from another place. Like
yeah,
whatever is happening here is not real. Don't get wrapped up in it. It won't last forever. Don't give it any power, and just kind of stay with this crazy feeling that you're from somewhere else, but don't tell anybody. Which I made the mistake of
that
telling.
I made that mistake too.
I think we all did. I think we all did. It's funny because you don't see it so much anymore, but back in like 2012 seemed to be a pivotal year, obviously, and then I think I started getting active with the laptop active around 2013 summer. But it was funny because people would be like, you could tell they woke up, they'd get all excited, and then they would be like putting up posts like, why doesn't anyone believe me? I told my family and they think I'm crazy, you know?
Yeah,
And then at some point you realize you don't need to tell anybody anything, right?
yeah,
That's a big
yeah,
part of it.
yeah.
God, that's fascinating. You're packed all this adventure in 31 years. I wonder what the next 31 is going to be like. What do you think the rest of 2020 is going to be like? I mean, it's so moving so fast, like warp
Yeah,
speed. You know?
I have no idea.
No, it's
I feel
just.
like I can't answer that.
I think your advice or your comment about just staying grounded is probably the best thing. And what is grounded? People used to say that on the show, and I'd be like, "Well, what do you do?" And they'd be like, "Well,
Yeah,
breathe, meditate." But to me, it's just like whatever keeps you present. Maybe I don't know. What do you think?
yeah, yeah. My favorite thing is like when Spencer goes to his dad's for the weekend, I just disappear into the forest.
Oh, really?
And like I just like to be alone in nature as much as I can. But during lockdown and stuff, like when we couldn't, I have a yard, so I spend a fair bit of time out there. But yeah, like breathing a lot. One thing that's been really good for me, which I've only really started doing, was just actually letting myself feel what I'm feeling instead of trying to suppress it or like trying to like feed the thoughts or whatever. I'll just cry. I'll feel whatever it is, or like dance and just get it out of my body, and then I feel so much better afterwards. And I just think like, oh, if I had just let myself feel what I was feeling my whole life, things would have been pretty different because this
Yeah,
isn't so bad.
that's a really good point. There, we had another country-mate of yours, Soraya Sistar, was on an hour ago, and I asked her something to that effect, and she said that. I said to her, "What do you do when you get triggered?" And that's what she said. She said, "I look at it." Like she really excitedly, said, "I love it because I know it's an opportunity to expand." And
Yeah,
the thing that was interesting, what she said, I've never heard anybody say this before. She said, "And it usually comes to the surface, in that moment. But she said, and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, I just look at it and say, and acknowledge that it's there with me. And she says after a while, it'll always come. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really important. Like, if you get upset, if you get mad, if you get sad, not to just run from it, actually absorb it and embody it.
Yeah. My favorite thing is theta healing. So
Theta.
I do. Have you heard of theta healing before?
I have heard of it on the show a couple times, but it's been a long time. What is it? I forgot.
It's like so much contained in one thing, but essentially it's like a healing modality where you reprogram subconscious beliefs, but you can use it for anything like mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and that's something that I started doing a couple of years ago. So I'm a practitioner, but I see my teacher was like once a fortnight, but I've been seeing her weekly
Oh, you have?
lately, just because of the things that come up. And I find it so helpful because it's like I can go in there feeling really affected by something, and then you start off like with a digging process where you like say what you consciously know, like what's going on, and then you dig and you end up like at the bottom of the iceberg, and then can see so clearly where all the different things come from. So it can be like past life, it can be anything. Yesterday I went interdimensional in my session, but
Tell
and
me about
then
it. Yeah. So
and
give
then
me an example. Can you give me an example? Can you like yesterday? So
okay,
or
I'll put you
unless
down.
it's too personal, I mean, can you or even make up an example? Like, so let's say
Okay.
yesterday you had a problem. Is it something you can talk about? Or
Yeah.
okay,
So what was coming up for me beforehand was I'd been feeling like have you ever heard of human design?
yes,
Yeah. So I'd only recently learned about human design in the last 6 weeks and learn about. Are you a projector as well?
I am a projector. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I only learn about that, and then about the different ways that we're designed to work and all of these things and all the different parts about my chart. I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. And it was things that I'd always intuitively known about myself, but then I just tried to force myself to fit in or like work in the way that never worked for me, and was getting, I think I was just feeling a lot of sorrow around that because I'd essentially just like crushed my soul to be something that I'm not.
Yeah.
And so I started digging on it with my teacher and ended up going back to a time, it was like a fifth plane life where there was this like an evil force, like a darkness and it could just melt into anything. And it didn't matter where you were, or if you went onto like a different level or plane or whatever, like it could just melt into anything. And it just seemed like it was unstoppable. And and then the underlying beliefs under it was around like having to die to be able to see the truth, and not real, and like thinking that the darkness was stronger than the
Yeah.
light. And in the so it would end up being around like trusting that creator is way
Yeah.
stronger than that, and being able to see a higher perspective instead of thinking that it was the end of the world. And there's been a fair few scenarios like similar, not that scenario, but a similar theme for me this year with that, like just trusting that it's all going
Yeah.
to be okay.
Yeah. So is there a level of hypnosis involved, or you went into dimension just through the
Yeah,
process?
yeah. Well, it's not. So you're in a theta brainwave, which is the same brainwave I think that you go into with hypnosis. So you're able to like see and remember things and access memories that you wouldn't be able to just with your conscious mind.
Mm.
And so then you reprogram the subconscious beliefs, and then you come out of it feeling great.
Now, when you reprogram the subconscious beliefs, is that the facilitator doing it, or you doing it?
The facilitator does it, but you say like you have to be conscious, like aware of what the beliefs are. So
Yeah,
they'll ask, "Is it all right if we change this belief to this belief?" And
I
you
got
say,
you.
"Yeah,
I got you. So they're
yeah."
not doing it; they're leading you to say to
Well,
reprogram. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So like creator is doing it, or like that the like source energy
yeah.
is the one that, and then you're just witnessing it happen.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Very cool. Very down to
yeah,
earth too, you know? I mean,
yeah.
that's
I
that's
like
what
it.
that's what I'm finding fascinating these last couple of months is talking to people. God, who was it yesterday? I talked to this incredible dude from England, Damien Nola.
Yeah,
Very connected. Very, I mean, like he's one of those that never went to sleep, right? He never went to
yeah.
sleep. This guy was like 18 years old, going to India and living with the Tibet. I mean, doing this crazy stuff, right?
How cool.
And I said to him, I said the same question. I said, "Do you ever get triggered?" And he just started cracking up. He said, "Yeah, I get pissed off all the time, you know." But it's so cool that people can be so open about their human vulnerability and reality,
Mm.
because it really makes the energy that they have pulled down and the code they pulled down so much more enhanced because they're not leaving the human out, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You can't forget that you're a person that we
No,
feel things.
no, we can't.
Yeah.
And I got to
I.
believe, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go. You go.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that that I love when things come up now because it is just a clearing, and once
Yeah,
like you can move through it,
yeah.
you just feel so much better. Like it's exciting being able to work through your.
Yes, it is. I was on my hands and knees this morning, and it always comes in different. Like sometimes it'll be somebody said something, and this morning it was something I read, and I can't even tell you what it was. But somehow or another, in the code of the 5 or 6 words that I read, I was about to eat breakfast. Had the TV on, and the next thing I know, I could feel this thing just come into my body, and I felt like I was going to vomit. My mouth's watering. I thought I better go to the
Yeah.
bathroom, and I stood up, and I couldn't stand. I got on all fours, and I thought, well, I'll crawl.
Oh.
But at the same time, there was information coming in, and the information was uh, I forget what it was. Oh, it was along the lines of like sovereignty, like in terms of like patterns of behavior. It was a message. It was a clear message, and that's when I kind of chilled out. I went, "Oh, wait a minute! I'm just getting a download. I'm just getting more code, more information."
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. If we can look at it that way, uh, it sure makes it easier. I want to get. I want to see. I'm anxious to see what's going to happen to our field when we start to not take the triggers personally. Like when it's
Mm.
not even in our like say I say something to you or you say something to me that would normally trigger us we have like this immediate response of, gosh, she's why'd she say that, or he's an asshole, or but where that's not even there anymore, where we just
Yeah.
immediately go into, oh, okay, here we go again, you know like we're gonna level up again. um,
Yeah.
and there's no personal animosity and stuff like that.
I think 2020 has been pretty good for that. So I was just getting my dog off my blanket. Um, I think 2020's been good for that in a way that because there has been so much contrast and
Yeah,
the division has been not nice, but a lot of people are being called to start speaking, and I feel like I know I have a lot just been speaking out about how I feel about things, and it's helped me. I guess as I've been like clearing the things going with that, it's really helped me to not worry so much what people think
yeah,
and just to start being yourself. Like it's been such a strong call to just show up as myself
yeah.
for who I am instead of pretending. So
That's what Soraya's sister was saying. Sister was saying this previous show. She was,
yeah,
and I've known her for like since 2014. Like when I came off the streets, she was one of the first people I met. And
yeah,
that's one of the things that I always liked about her, because she was one of those people doing videos early on. Like when I started doing them in 2015, we started about the same time. And but what I always liked about her was she was always like very, very human. She was not afraid to say, "I'm sad today," or "I'm mad
yeah,
today." And there's
yeah,
something about allowing a person the space to say whatever with no
yeah,
judgment. Just I like Trump. I don't like Trump, or whatever it is, like, or this
Yeah.
irritates me or that irritates me, and there's something good about it. This
Yeah.
suppression, there's been so much suppression of feminine energy, even like in this, I'm watching some of this stuff over there in Melbourne, and it's like, no, like, what are you doing? Like, but you can also see the spirit of the
Yeah.
people saying, hey, you know what? I've had enough. This just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So blessings are burdens and burdens are blessings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much beauty that comes out of the dark times, I reckon.
I know. That's it,
I,
right? I mean, the Bible didn't say let there be darkness. It said let there be light. So if it said let there be light, then there must have only been darkness. That's the holy womb right there. That's the mother's womb. That's how we create stuff, from that darkness.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Do
love
you,
that. Oh,
hmm?
sorry. You go.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. There's
Oh,
a
I was
little
just
bit of a
going to
lag. I'm
say,
not interrupting you. Go ahead.
okay. I didn't know that. I don't know really anything about you except from I've seen your interviews with Mary and Marie because I love them both. But I didn't know about that you were homeless as well.
Mhm.
And I always just find it so beautiful when people have gone through hardships or like gotten to these places in their lives and places that I've been to, and then able to like build themselves up and come
Yeah.
back again, and to come back from such a beautiful space. Like you're helping so many people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right about that. These stories that you hear, so common now. And I even knew back then, like I knew, there was a lot of traumas involved, but I knew then that my suffering, if that's what it was, wasn't anything like a lot of people. I didn't know, to the extent, like somewhat like literally, but as I started doing my work and I started talking to people, these women like my wife, like being molested for 10 years as a little kid and raped and all these things. And it blows my mind that
Yeah.
they were able to come back because I look at what I did, it was nothing, I mean, it was obviously, but it was not like that. That's like deep, deep, deep stuff. And I think what's happening, particularly with and really with both, but I mean, the feminine has been the one that's been in the background. And like you said, people are starting to come out and talk now. And it's not so much, I don't think, going to be in their story, although that's important, but it's the fact of what you just said. What did they come from? Because
Yeah.
where they came from was the catalyst of what they connected to, you know,
Yeah.
and through their disassociation, and so on, and even through drug use and alcohol,
Yeah.
and other, and so like to me, it's just the energetic impact of these people stepping up for the first time carries so much code.
Yeah.
It really
That
does.
since you've mentioned about the molesting, that was what like caused me to start drinking and
Yeah,
doing drugs from such a young age, because I got molested when I was a kid.
I
And
figured.
I had different different things that affected it. But like back when our interview was going to be like a month ago, I finally told my parents about it, and I found that to be like so healing, because they just had no idea. And I just I think it helped them to understand me a lot better. Mum was like, oh, that's why you were always like so scared or
Yeah,
like so quiet and stuff as a kid. And then it explains like the like doing drugs and drinking and like
yeah,
disconnecting.
yeah.
I don't know how to word it properly, but
No, I
yeah.
got what you're saying. I mean, look, I lay down every night, put my hands together with Morgan, and I'm still amazed at how quick she can connect.
Yeah.
Like she's in that theta state like that, you know,
Yeah.
and she'll start channeling. And I remember she told me, because she was abused from 3 to 13 by 4 different
Long
men,
time.
and so like her memories didn't come back, I think, to her early 30s, and that's when she started doing the work. But she said that she was disassociating, so she was going into dimension basically
Yeah.
to escape from what was happening in the physical. And I'm firmly believe that that's how she developed such a, powerful means of connection because of the repetition of that, once she started to do the work, but also from, making those connections as a child.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing like, if this is happening now, we're not too far from being able to get to a place of higher compassion and understanding. And I know this is hard for human ears, but of the perpetrator. Like, what was their story? Like, your parents didn't know
Yeah.
your story, right? Like,
Yeah.
what made a person, you know, violate someone else? And
Yeah.
you would
Yeah.
have to think that at some point they must have been violated, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And even just with not like things not as extreme as like molestation or rape or whatever, any like how many people just as a collective are suffering and have been through, there's so many different types of trauma. And yeah, once you start looking at it that way, it makes it so much easier to have compassion for people and like people like, because everyone has something, and when you get to see their story or hear them, or even if you never do get to hear it, you can just imagine like, oh, there must be something going on underneath that for
Absolutely.
me to be that way.
And and the crazy thing is too, is that some of these, um, what do you want to call this? I mean, some of the trauma that causes that behavior didn't even happen in this lifetime.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I have a relative, and I remember talking to their mother, and there was um, two kids, and one of them was very happy and very, smiling and such. And I remember uh, the parent telling me that from day one, you couldn't even pick up the kid. He didn't want to be held. He was always angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
in the human world, we'd say, "Oh, there's a chemical imbalance," but that's actually previous incarnation trauma or possibly ancestral trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think we're doing a good job. I
Yeah,
think, I
totally.
think, I think we really are. I think we're making some serious headway, and I believe that we have a lot of. There's a high level of potential in the field just in 2020. Even though there's, by human terms, only 2.5 months left, but I think there's a huge potential for a huge leap. And wherever we're going, and whatever we're going to materialize, I don't think there's a person on the face of the earth that has any idea how great it's going to be. I really don't.
Yeah.
You know, far out. I love doing this show. You're fascinating, and you're brave,
Oh,
and you're beautiful,
thanks.
and thank you for showing up. You know,
Oh, thanks.
we all
Thanks
should
for
be.
having me.
We should all take honor in showing up here because we're not just doing it for humanity; we're doing it for the universe. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had to
Yeah,
do it like clear a lot of fear around showing up.
yeah.
Like there was no way 2 years ago that I would have like spoken to you. Not because there's anything wrong with you. I just mean because I'd be like, because
That's okay.
I
You've
didn't
already.
like talking to people.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just so shy, and yeah, it's taken me a lot to learn how to talk to
yeah,
people. Yeah.
yeah. It's funny because I'll go. Everything's expanding. The compassion and the understanding, the clarity, and the telepathy. Like, how long will it be before this show won't even be? Well, if there is a show, it'll just be
Yeah.
two people staring at each other.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
seriously, because all the
Yeah.
code just, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
I,
it's like this lady that was on Soraya that was on before you. I've known her since 2014. I don't think we've even exchanged messages on Messenger, but maybe we did three
yeah,
times, two times,
yeah,
and I've never talked to her. Now we back in the day we would comment on each other's stuff, you know, but
yeah,
so I had asked her a few times, and she couldn't do it. It wasn't in alignment, but she came on. So right before the show started, we were talking, and I said, I just got to tell you that, and I don't even know what I said. I didn't say much, but she says, I get it, Todd. Like our interactions and communications has all been etheric for the
mm,
most part. So essentially, everything that I was going to say to her, she already knew, and everything she was going to say to me, I already knew.
yeah,
And that's just a precursor of where we're headed, you know. And if
yeah,
that's the case, then teleportation, bilocation can't be far behind.
yeah.
So next year at this
Well,
time, you, me, and your son and Morgan will go to Venus for dinner.
sounds good.
Right?
Maybe I'll
It's,
have met the man from the valley then, and he can come too.
oh my God, I'm going to stay on this one. I can't. That what a story though. Like this, another one of the. It's a couple, Ryan and Natasha Weeks. They have a two. I think he's about two now. His name is Ocean, and
Oh,
he
beautiful name.
communicated with her from the womb and
Yeah.
told her, "Hey, sell your house, sell your boat, quit your jobs, get something mobile, because we're going to be traveling around the country. I'm not getting vaccinated, and I'm not going to school."
How cool is
And
that?
she listened, and that's what they're doing. And the bottom line is, I guess what I'm saying, like with your story and their story and so many other stories, these are documented. So
Mm,
it's not going to be a coincidence when 6 years from now he starts talking some stuff from off planet stuff, or this your partner
yeah,
comes in and you called it, you documented it. I mean, this is going to not only get around, verbally, but also energetically, and that's what's more important,
yeah,
because it all
yeah,
happens energetically first. It really does.
yeah. When I um when I made that album for him, because I have an album called The Garden of Valli, and it's on Spotify and stuff like that. But when like inside the booklet, I have written for the man of my songs, I sing for you always. But then I kind of like wrote what I've like imagined life to look like, all my dreams, and just the like the idea is just calling him in. Like there's one song on there that I wouldn't want to call in. I put that on for a friend who passed away. But then besides that, it's just like this little intimate
Yeah,
um, story for us.
it's going to be on the cosmic Billboard top 10, no doubt. We didn't even get into your music, but I really enjoyed the conversation, and I really appreciate you. I want you to know that.
Thanks. Thank
Give
you.
your uh,
Thank
give
you.
your son a third eye kiss from Uncle Todd.
I will.
And I'll see you again. Hopefully, we
Yeah,
can collaborate again sometime.
sounds good. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me, Todd.
All right.
Take
Peace
care.
out.